and welcome to AutoSave. My name is Nick Andrade, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host Camille Salazar Hadaway. Cam, how you doing right now? How is everything in Camland?
I'm doing good. I almost ate my mic just now. I was fixing my...
It happens.
I was fixing my earbuds, and I went a little too close to the mic and almost ate it. Do not recommend. Don't do that.
The foam is probably poisonous.
Probably. Probably is poisonous. This was your plan all along.
It was.
I mean, it's been fairly decent weather. I've been going for little walks. And because we're in this like in between of like snow melting, but also sunny days, I feel like I'm like pre-Fimbulwinter right now. Or like post. I guess post-Fimbulwinter.
Might just be ending.
Oh my gosh, am I in Ragnarok?
You are.
Is this Ragnarok right now? Are we experiencing it?
It's pretty sunny though right now, so I wouldn't say so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Guess what, Cam, though? We had a crazy episode last week. God of War Ragnarok, probably the most important twist of this game so far. I'm going to preface it by saying, so far, as this happened.
What do we do now?
Now we kill Odin. And anyone who gets in our way.
Atreus. Come.
What? Where?
It does not matter.
Where are you going?
We are done.
So we fought and killed Heimdall. We got more of a sense of Thor through Siv's relationship, their relationship with Odin, and also maybe Thrud and Thor's relationship as well. But the biggest thing of all to happen that caught us both off guard was Tyr was not in fact Tyr. He was Odin, who has been spying on us this whole time, which makes sense now that you think about it, how easy it was to get to Tyr at the beginning of the game. But my God, Brock died and everything fell apart. It was pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy. I would like to say, go back in the tapes, because I'm pretty sure when we found Tyr, I was like, this is all too easy. Like, he's just been holding up here this whole time.
Yeah.
A little odd, but it's crazy how the game just made it so quick to forget about the oddness of that whole thing that like we just fell back into like, okay, the story's moving ahead. We're moving ahead with it.
I think that's what they did so well, because I remember too as well thinking, again, we can get our producers to dig up exactly what we said, or if Cam is right and said what she said, but I believe her anyway. But just that whole, like everything, I remember going through it and seeing Tyr for the first time and thinking, this seems really odd. That it really took no time at all to do this. He was exactly where Atreus thought he would be. Seems fishy, but because the game just keeps going along so fast that you completely forget about it. And Tyr is now just this person who's always around, so you don't even think about it. And that's what they did. That is the great thing that they did, is they made us forget about Tyr this whole time.
Or Odin made us forget about the weirdness around finding Tyr.
Do you think it's how, like, not good he was, but like he was so nice to Atreus that it also like puts that as the reason, because you're not even suspecting Odin, even though you know he's bad, but he's nice to Atreus. So then you kind of just like roll with it.
Well, it's interesting because like, what is our common saying here? I don't trust him.
Yeah.
And that's what I said with Odin.
Obviously.
I had all the like alerts up because I was very weary of Odin and still did not see this coming. And I think that's with Atreus as well, right? Atreus thought he was in control of this whole situation of being able to use Odin, as we heard him tell Angrboda. But I guess that's what makes Odin so deceptive, is like, and this is exactly what Freya was telling us about, like, do not trust him. Like, you will think you're able to trust him. Don't trust him. So we went in not trusting him, but forgot about the deception that he could still instill.
Yeah, and then he just slapped us right in the face.
Slapped us right in the face and stabbed our good old friend. Oh, so sad.
Well, it was really sad, and we are actually going to deal with the ramifications of all of that in this episode, covering chapters 15 and 16, Hunting for Solace and the Summoning. We're going to get a good dose of people feeling bad about themselves, about each other, and just about everything else. But before we get to that, question of the day, Cam. We saw that Odin shapeshifted into a version of Tyr, I guess. I want you to name 3 things that you would want to shapeshift as, because we also have Loki, who shapeshifts into a bear and a wolf and whatever else he can. We don't really know, or whatever we've seen. But the 3 that I have, if that helps you, is 1, a dragon. Okay, I think that would be sick.
What's up with you and scary things?
It's a dragon. What do you mean scary?
Last time on AutoSave, you wanted to have a sidekick that's like could kill things. A dragon could also kill things as well. Who hurt you?
I'm not thinking about it in that sense. I'm thinking about it in that it's a dragon who breathes fire and can fly. That's pretty cool.
Okay, fine, fair.
The second one was a plane, which now I'm realizing if I have a dragon, why do I need a plane?
I don't know.
So that doesn't make sense.
No.
But the third was a fly, because I would love to be a fly on the wall. You could probably get away with like finding out a lot of things you know, from your enemies. So I think that'd be useful.
Would it be cheating if Star Trek nerds, I'm going to say a changeling? A changeling is a being from Star Trek that could change into other people. So then technically there's no limit because I changed into a creature that could change into infinite amount of things.
That's like asking a genie for a million more wishes. I don't think that's allowed.
Okay, fine. That's not allowed. Okay, that's not allowed. Yeah. I like the fly on the wall, but like, would I really want to be a fly on the wall? What would you do with all that information? I would say I would want to be a celebrity of some sort, just so I could change into maybe, I'm trying to think of someone really cool, which I can't think of anyone really cool right now.
But you just want to be a celebrity in terms of like what they are able to like do, or the money they make, or the fame.
Yeah, I think it'd just be cool to be walking down the street and someone's like, "Hey, Halle Berry." Like, I want to be Halle Berry. I would shapeshift into Halle Berry. She's really cool. I feel like people would just treat her really cool, and she's really good at action movies. Now, in terms of creatures, I would say unicorn, because unicorns could fly.
Yes,
they're mystical.
Yeah,
they're stunning,
amazing.
And then for the last one, I would probably say a dog, just because. Yes, I could be a fly in the wall, but why would I be a fly on a wall in a room that I don't want to be welcomed at? Everyone wants a dog around. Everyone wants to welcome a dog. But no one would suspect that I know all their secrets because they probably talk a lot in front of their dog.
Sure, but I mean, the whole point of the fly on the wall is that they don't see that there's a fly on the wall.
But they're going to try to probably kill you when they notice that you're a fly on the wall. Like, no one's
sure,
going to try to hurt me.
But I'll get away.
I'm cute and innocent.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like a fly on the wall would be more useful.
It's not as discreet.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not as discreet. I got to think about. See, the problem with these questions is we don't have much time to think about the answer. So my answer will probably change within the next few days.
I didn't suspect you say Halle Berry would be one of them. So clearly,
why wouldn't you want to be Halle Berry? I mean,
I gotta send you like a week in advance so you can get your answer straight.
I know, you're like, Camille, come on. Better answers for these, please.
No, that's good. It checks out.
You'd probably give me a week and I'd come up with the same answers. So
that is true. It's like doing an assignment like early. That never worked for me. I always needed to do it before, like maybe a day or two before, because if I did it early, it would be shittier. It really would. I'd get lower grades. It's just the way it is. I don't know. Don't ask me why. I have no idea.
Oh, I'd want to be a bird.
What kind of bird?
Well, that's a thing, right? Like, what are cool birds? I wouldn't want to be a bird that kills other animals.
Eagle.
No.
So you want to be a parrot?
No, they talk too much. But then again, so do I.
Hummingbird?
A hummingbird looks like a lot of work moving their wings so fast. I don't know. I haven't got there, Nick. Ask me at the end of the show.
Sorry.
I'll let you know.
Way too many questions. I forgot that you can't handle a question sprung at you.
I know. It's hard.
All right. Well, after the break, Kratos tries his best to soothe a very guilty Atreus. Next on AutoSave. So we meet Kratos and Atreus back in Midgard. Atreus is feeling guilty as if the murder of Brock was his fault, that he brought Tyr/Odin into Sindri's home. So he's basically going into a mode of trying not to think about it, and he wants to hunt for deer to get his mind off it. Kratos and Mimir are trying to help, but they're basically trying to remind Atreus that it is not his fault. Cam, what do you think about what Kratos is trying to say to Atreus here? Basically trying to not run from his problems, but also know that this isn't his fault.
I mean, I feel like in a situation like this, especially with loss, that I could fully understand why Atreus feels it's his fault. I don't think whatever good advice and wisdom Kratos is saying in this moment, Atreus is really hearing. You know, I think there does have to be that mourning process, and it is still very fresh, and Atreus is going through that right now. So no matter how you try to like make him feel better, it's just unfortunately not going to work at this moment.
Yeah, nothing probably will work at all. But as we get closer to the deer, Atreus takes aim.
Why? That was running.
And so are we.
I don't understand.
When an animal is wounded, it must stop the bleeding, or it will die. We have been wounded, and this is a distraction.
It's my fault.
No. No.
We should find Sindri. I have a pretty good idea where he might be.
So this might be one of my favorite conversations in the entire game, and just listening to it now again is emotional, but it's just the advice that Kratos gives here, which is just pliable to like any situation in the world, really. But, you know, Kratos basically saying that we have to stop the bleeding. We can't run away from these issues. I also think that this is maybe something that's resonating a little bit with Kratos as well, as he's thinking about Atreus trying to run from this. He thinks that he's been trying to run from prophecy, from all of this throughout this game specifically. So I think it's a conversation that he's having with Atreus, but it's also hitting him in a certain way, where he's thinking that he's also running for problems. And even though Ragnarok is right in front of them that he's trying to avoid, he needs to maybe do certain things that maybe he didn't want to do, but he's going to have to confront with in the future as well. But how did you take this conversation between the two?
Well, yeah, it's very touching because, again, you're seeing that advice come into play here. What's more interesting for me is the fact that hunting plays an important role in these deep conversations between Atreus and Kratos. We saw that in the 2018 game. Actually, a scene that's very similar to this one when Atreus is first hunting the deer and isn't able to kill the deer once he finally gets it, right?
Yeah.
And you hear wise words from Kratos there again. Here, we know Atreus could hunt, right? We know that he's able to do that. We saw that at the beginning of Ragnarok, right? Of this game. So it's interesting that because of his frustrations, because of the emotional trauma he's going through, all of that is thrown out of whack. And we see that when he completely tries to ignore what Kratos is saying at first, and he just wants to go into getting this deer, right? And Kratos makes a fair point. I like how you said that he is giving this advice, but he's not only talking to Atreus as well. He's also coming to more of a peace with vocalizing the realities of his situation as well. It's very interesting. Like, even though it may seem like we've been here before, how it's still fresh coming into these moments.
So Atreus knows where Sindri is so that they can talk to him, which is where we head next. As we go, Atreus talks about being reminded of his mistakes. Kratos says being reminded of our choices are not always a punishment. So this chapter is just littered with wise advice. But Atreus keeps going back to what if he did things differently to stop what happened. But Kratos and Mimir also reassure him that, we were all fooled by Odin's deception. There was no way he could have foreseen this from happening. I think he's right. Cam, I'm going to guess that you think he's right as well, because we didn't see it coming either as the audience. So he can't blame himself for this.
Yeah, and he can't, right? And I think, again, it's just that he's mourning right now, so he won't be able to see the greater picture. The fact is that everyone was tricked in this situation. Everyone, Kratos, Mimir, Sindri, Brock, they all made the decision to go after Tyr, right? It wasn't just something that Atreus said and he did on his own. Even though he was pushing it, they all came to that agreement. So he can't look at it as it's his fault, because really no one knew that it would lead to this.
So we also find out that there is no chance of bringing Brock back from the dead. I know, Cam, in the last episode, you had said that maybe he could come back. Mimir is adamant that there's no way this can happen, because the main important thing is that when Brock died before and Sindri brought him back to life, he had lost a part of his soul because of it. So that part of the soul is what part of the soul he needed to get into the afterlife. So one, he can't even get into the afterlife. He's just in limbo now at this point, which poor guy. And then two, he can't be brought back to life because he is missing that part of the soul. So I think that's why Sindri is probably even more upset right now. I mean, his brother died. I can't really, I feel like,
you
know what I mean though.
He has mixed emotions, and he's probably blaming himself a bit as well, because of, firstly, we've dealt with this whole storyline of him hiding from Brock the fact that he died in the mine,
yes,
and that he was brought back, right? So firstly, he's dealing with not telling his brother sooner. Secondly, he's dealing with the fact that he didn't do it properly by getting all of the parts of Brock's soul. And then now losing him again and trying to, put the pieces together. And he's probably laying blame as well, too. Like, that's normal emotions when you lose someone close to you.
But even not even being able to go to the afterlife, that is probably the kick in the teeth that Sindri has. So we take our sled over to Tyr's temple. And I guess that is where Sindri is, the familiar forge that we saw so much in the first God of War game.
Sindri, I'm so sorry.
No. No, I don't want to hear it. You don't know what sorry means.
We're not letting Odin get away with this.
Would that be the Odin you invited into my home?
We were all fooled.
But some of us were bigger fools than others. Aren't we? I gave you everything. My skills. My friendship, my home, my secrets, my treasures, and you just kept taking. And now what have I got? Not even my family. You want sorry? This is what sorry looks like.
What can we do?
We. There is no we. There's only you. No matter what the cost. So what you can do is get the fuck out of my sight.
I thought we were his family too.
We were.
So this is a really tough scene to take. We see Sindri, who is visibly completely upset about what happened, but he seems to be putting the blame on Atreus and Kratos, which I understand because he is, mourning the loss of his brother. But I'm a little frustrated at him putting this specifically on the two of them. I open my life to you. I open my home, all this stuff to you, but I don't see how they can completely be blamed in this situation. Sindri, a lot of this time, has really put himself into these situations. He always wanted to be a part of what they were doing, probably more to an extent than Brock did. You know, he always went around with Atreus. Even before that, in the previous game, he kind of like inputted himself into what they were doing constantly. So I get being frustrated with them and being upset because your brother has died, but I don't think they're to blame for all of this. And it's sad because, you know, Atreus says, I thought we were family.
Yeah, you're right. Like, it's hard to just that's the thing. We want to tell Atreus, like, you know, it's not your fault. But at the same time, he did play a role in it. Like, we've heard Sindri, even when Atreus went to go see Freya, to find out more information. You know, like, Sindri's always the one trying to talk him out of it, right? That's Sindri's role. So especially from his perspective, I could see how right now he wants to put the blame on Kratos and Atreus. I think how he talks to Atreus, especially knowing Atreus is a kid, is crazy to me. But again, he is hurting. So I think he would do something that's out of character, or what most characters wouldn't do in this moment, because they recognize Atreus as being a kid. Usually the blame is put on Kratos alone. But I think for him, it's kind of goes back to what we said. He's seeing the fact that there is no afterlife for Brock. Like, he can't rest in peace. Brock literally can't rest in peace because there is nothing left after him. And this is interesting because it draws a parallel to what's happening with Odin and the gods. The Odin's question of what happens after a god passes. Is there an afterlife for gods? Like, what happens after? Right? That frustration, we see a little bit of that in Sindri right now because of what's happened with Brock. So it's interesting that we're able to pull a little bit of that commonality between these two characters as well.
A very important line to me in this clip that we just heard was Kratos saying, mourn how you wish. And for me, I think that's a strong statement. What it's telling me is, I don't think you're necessarily right, but we all mourn certain ways, and this is how you are choosing to mourn. But remember that we're still here. I don't know how you interpreted that, but I really enjoyed that statement because I think he understands you're feeling this way, but maybe I'm not necessarily agreeing with you. And I'm going to let you know in a little subtle way.
Yeah. And this is exactly the wisdom that we saw when he was dealing with Freya and Baldur, right? Like, he understood what Freya was going through, especially being a parent himself, and how he would feel. And he understands that sometimes people act irrationally. I mean, him himself has done that. And I think this just shows how much he has grown from his mistakes in the past, or from his journey in the past of mourning his first wife and his daughter, right?
As we walk back to our sled, Atreus, Mimir, Kratos have a small conversation about what to do next. Now, Mimir says he'll be happy once we bring Odin to justice, but Kratos chimes in with pain in his voice as well, something that I noticed. Every path I walk leads to vengeance. And Atreus mentions, well, maybe that's all we have left. And so I feel bad for Kratos here because he's really tried to change who he is, especially in this game specifically. But it seems like no matter what he does, it always comes back to vengeance. What do you think he should do in that kind of situation? Because he's clearly feeling bad about that. But there's no one would have seen that Odin would disguise himself and kill their friend, and this is where the path of vengeance comes. But it seems like that's kind of like a theme here in a lot of these God of War games, is something unfortunate happens, and then Kratos finds himself in the middle of all of it.
Yeah, and this isn't the first experience of this in this game, right? We see that with Heimdall as well. Like, when he was going after Heimdall, like, he expressed, like, some things just have to happen, but he didn't seem necessarily sad before it happened, right? So I think the fact that it does hit close to home, this is a friend that they've now known for many years who helped get them to a place where the two of them have a stronger bond. Like, you could argue that without Brock, Kratos and Atreus wouldn't be as close as they are, because I think that's definitely a component as well. Like, both Atreus and Kratos said they see Brock and Sindri as family, right? And they lost a family member here. So I think this has Kratos doubting the words that he's been preaching throughout the game as well. You know, he's been preaching like, you know, destiny is not, or fate is not set. You have to make your own fate, and if it falls in line with fate, it does. If it doesn't, like, it's not set in stone. It doesn't mean it has to. But now he is questioning that. And I think there was an episode where we actually talked about this, like the idea of Kratos just falling back into old habits, and really if there is any escape from the title of God of War, the bloody title of God of War that he's known for. We heard the Fates talk about who he is and how they talk about him. And it just seems that always keeps following him around.
I wish we could meet the real Tyr so that we would know what it's like to be a pacifist as the God of War. Because I think maybe the Odin version of himself makes him into a light of where he is just the ultimate pacifist, because that's how Odin sees him, as this weakling, doesn't want to do anything, wants to abstain from everything. So I wonder if we could have seen that real Tyr. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I have no idea. But
well, that's what I was going to say. Is he alive? Is he dead?
I don't know.
Because they didn't say that.
Yeah, there's whispers from the first game where they say he could be alive, but was that just a tale that Odin spun, you know, in case he needed to do something like this?
Or is he actually alive? Very interesting.
Yeah. I just wish that he was here to kind of have that conversation with Kratos, because he's clearly going through a bunch of conflict. Can you escape being the God of War, or do you always have to find your way through towards vengeance? It's back to Sindri's house without Sindri to meet up with Freya and prepare for war.
Are you with us? Good. It's time.
Time for what, dare I ask?
Time to unite the realms against Odin once and for all.
Tyr tried to unite the realms. The real Tyr. Everyone loved him. And even he failed.
Then we better not fail, or there will be no one left to try. This is Ragnarok.
And Odin's already heard every blasted plan we have.
Yes, we've lost the element of surprise. More than that, we have only one way to Asgard, and it's not subtle.
Yellow.
It means we enter from Tyr's temple, here. Asgard's wall is here. Odin's host of Einherjar will hold the space in between.
Which means we need armies of our own.
As many as will answer the call. Numbers Odin won't see coming.
And that's just to reach the wall. To breach the wall, we'll need to find Surtur.
Ratatoskr was able to procure this.
The three of us will go.
I know just where to look.
Splendid. Allies, then. Who do we think we can get?
I'll venture to Helheim. Try to recruit the army of the dead.
And I'll return to Alfheim to unite the elves.
Just like that. Unite the elves after centuries of war.
Well, they really like me in Alfheim.
And you? To Valheim.
Yes. To find Sigrun and muster the free Valkyries.
Midgard has no army.
No Niflheim, no Jotunheim.
That leaves only Svartalfheim.
I'll go to Svartalfheim.
Sindri? Are you sure?
I said I'll go.
All right, so I guess Sindri is back on our side, despite him wanting us to leave him alone. Right quick after, he's back in his house, saying that he'll try to unite the dwarves. So it's off to war we go, and we have to, I guess, unite the banners against Odin if we can get them. So Sindri, like we hear, is going to go off to Svartalfheim. Freyr is going to try and rally the elves. Hildisvíni to Helheim for the army of the dead, and Freya to Vanaheim to, I guess, collect her people. And then, of course, Kratos and Atreus have to go to Surtur to create Ragnarok. So I have something to say here. I think they're going to fail, because how are they going to get all of these people to stand up to Odin? We even hear from Mimir asking Freyr, how are you going to unite the elves after centuries of fighting each other? To me, it seems very impossible, improbable, and probably impossible.
Are you losing hope, Nick? You don't have hope in our friends?
It's not that I'm losing hope. But do you think you're really going to get all of these people who fear Odin all of a sudden rise up?
Well, think of it, right? The word of Tyr being alive, I think, is already out there, right? We were kind of not gloating about it, but I think people know that Tyr is alive, right? So if they hear the story how actually Odin tricked, like Tyr may not be alive because Odin was posing as Tyr.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would get under people's skins because I'm just thinking, if I'm in Norse mythology, I'm in a realm, let's say I'm in Elfheim, I'm just an elf hanging out. I hear all these rumors about, the goddess of Vanaheim, Freya, and this new God of War character that killed all of our people back in 2018. God of War.
Okay. Right.
Kind of rallying up against Odin. Like, I think, you hear it, it may get hope because no one likes Odin. They're all afraid of him, right? That's the whole thing. They're all afraid of them. So you get hope. You may hear whispers, oh, maybe Tyr's alive. Wait, what's that? And then you hear, wait, what? Tyr wasn't alive? Odin is crossing the line. Now he may get a hold of this all-powerful item, the mask. Like, what would that mean, right? Like, I think this is literally everyone in every realm, their last stance. Because if Odin does get that mask and we know it has so much knowledge, then what hope does all the realms have? You have to have hope.
But you're saying they will come together because of this?
I think so. I think they would come together because I know it may be a bit like, and maybe this is the optimist in me, but I know it's going to be a bit hearing how people have been killed, how he was able to trick the god, like maybe like, oh, well, there's no hope against Odin. But at the same time, you have to look at it from the other side. Well, if he wins, what does that mean for everyone?
So my thought process here is I agreed with you up until the point of Tyr and Odin. So you hear whispers of Tyr still alive. You hear of this god from Greece who is on, Freya's side or whatever. You see Freya and him has gotten back to get are a tandem now. They're on the same side. So you see all of this and you hear all of these things. And that is the point where you think, okay, maybe we have a chance. But then when Odin ends up being Tyr, for me, that's what makes everyone think, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea. This is where maybe I would think, okay, we don't want to get involved because it looks like we're going to pick a losing side.
Yeah.
So that's my only opinion on that front.
I think you need to look a little bit more positive at the world. Okay. Wouldn't you feel like, oh crap, the world's ending? Wouldn't you want to try everything possible? Plus, all these realms have warriors. They're fighters. A lot of them. They're fighters. I don't think they would give up that easy. You just walk into Elfheim and elves are ready to attack you for no reason. Like,
do you want to die though? Look at the dwarves. They're afraid of Odin. Throughout this game, we see them hiding away from Kratos because they don't want to get involved. Like, I don't know.
I just remember even like hearing like them when they heard Tyr was alive. Like when you tell people the story of Tyr alive, how much hope that brought into people. I would just hope it would show them that like if Odin was able to take that away from you so quickly, what else would he be able to take from you? Also, quick question because this ran through my mind. Does this mean Smee was in on it as well? Did Smee misdirect us on purpose?
Yeah, I think Smee knew everything that Odin was up to.
You think so? So you think Smee was playing us?
Yes.
Or was Smee honestly thinking that Tyr was alive as well?
I think he's on Odin's side is my guess. Also, for reference, if you didn't catch up, why Cam is calling Derlin Smee, it's because he looks like Smee from the movie Hook, played by Bob Hoskins. Look it up. We mentioned it before, but if you forgot, that's why.
I need a word with Smee.
Yes. We'll find out who's right or wrong. So producers, put a pin in it, and we'll find out if I was right or if Cam was right about all of these armies. Anyway, we take Galahorn, of course, Kratos does, from Freya, and we move on to Chapter 16, The Summoning, to see if Surtur and Samara will help us next after the break.
I won't help you. Who are you? Who you seek or what's left of him.
Why won't you help us?
I don't want to. Elaborate. We'll die.
Right. Because you've got so much to live for.
Not me. Her.
So what's the point of all this? You keep separate from Sinmara just so you can sit here and wait to die? At least if you joined with her, you'd be together again.
We are together. Got her heart. She's got mine. It's not much, but it's enough.
But you're not even...
Have you ever been in love? It's pretty good. And Odin will succeed. And all realms save Asgard will fall. Yeah, he must die. It's true. But I won't sacrifice her any more than you would him. Sorry.
So I love how right before we play the clip, I say, let's see if Surtur will help us. And the first line we hear is, I won't help you. Thought that was pretty funny. This is also a man of very little words. So the conversation between him and Kratos is pretty funny because you have two guys who don't necessarily talk that much, that are trying to talk about very important, very emotional things such as love and the end of the world. But what is your take on...
Deep conversations.
Yes. What is your take on Surtur and meeting Surtur, who is... he's a giant who I'm confused because sometimes we hear that they're extinct, but he's actually not. I mean, he's in Muspelheim. He's basically a giant volcano, molten lava, hardened rock kind of guy. I don't really know how to explain him more than that, but he is the potential of being Ragnarok, who is a monster. Ragnarok is not the end of the world. Ragnarok is technically the monster of the end of the world, and he can turn into that. And with the prophecy that Atreus kind of talked about in the last game and in this game, him and Sinmara have to combine in order for it to happen. But the only problem is Surtur doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want Sinmara to die. And we also find out that he has Sinmara's heart.
Which is like, when did he get that? Why wasn't that in the shrine? That would have saved us a lot of thought process. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When did he get her heart? I get it. It's sweet. Don't
Yes.
get me wrong. It's sweet. But when?
My main question here is such an important character to this entire thing. We meet, near the end of the game. And I'm kind of perplexed as why we are rushed into meeting Surtur and we really have no idea who he is, what's his story.
Well, I don't think we have to know, though.
I think we do.
I don't think we have to know because we know so much about his role, right? We know his role is kind of like that last step towards, everything we've been avoiding, Ragnarok, right? Everything Kratos, at least, has been avoiding Ragnarok. So I think it makes sense to why we have like this quick encounter, even though he talks so slow. I don't like you're saying one word, Surtur, like just spit it out already. Just spit it out. But, I think you don't need that background about him because we just know like what this encounter means. If we find out, like, all that matters, like, even if I knew his backstory more about it, I don't think I would even care in this moment because I'm more focused on, oh my gosh, is he going to make Ragnarok appear? Like, is this going to happen? And that's what I was thinking this whole time. Playing through this part, it was really interesting to hear that he had her heart, Sinamara's heart, which is, it's icy cold. Even with Skull and Haughty, you see like they represent both day and night. And now we have like fire and ice represented into these two companions of each other. So I think that's really cool that the game has done this. Obviously, Surtur is really concerned for Sinamara's safety. It doesn't seem like he's afraid to die because he wants Odin to die.
He's not. Yes, he's not afraid.
Yes, he's not. But he's afraid, which I had a hard time understanding. Because it's not like they could see, they have to be separate, right? In order to avoid Ragnarok, right? So that's why they have each other's heart. So then they always have a piece of each other to remember their love for each other. But my thing is, like, if Odin was out of the picture, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You could probably be with Sindri. You could enjoy your time, you know? So that was kind of weird to me. Like,
wait, but they would have to turn into Ragnarok, which defeats the purpose.
But what happens after Ragnarok? No one knows what happens. Or even
you think
if
that they can get split apart?
But maybe it could be like a more like representation of them coming together as Ragnarok, right? Like what if it was actually the two of them and like now they're one coming together as Ragnarok?
Right.
I don't know. I thought that was sweet.
So it's like
I thought that was sweet.
A being where they're together in love forever.
Yeah, they're together in love and also killing the person that they probably both hate. Right? I mean, what's more beautiful than a common goal?
Again, though, these are the questions you're asking. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And I feel like we would have, if we had more backstory between them, we would understand more of his plight. That's all. I just feel like maybe he should have been introduced earlier in the game or...
No, because I thought it was really cool. It goes into what you're saying. We thought all the giants are dead. Right?
Yes.
And I don't think, like, they knew Surtur was alive, right? Right? This whole time.
Allegedly. Or did Atreus know that he was alive after going to Muspelheim last time? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if they knew the whole time he was alive.
Maybe it's Odin.
I think it's okay. I know. Is Surtur Odin? No, I think it's okay that we're seeing him this last moment because the whole game or the beginning part of the game was the build up to seeing a giants again. And we got that. And now that's fulfilled. And now we're able to see this volcanic giant with a huge block of ice as a heart.
All right, well, let's see what he does next because as we heard in the clip, he wants Odin to die. But he doesn't want to help us in that sense. However, he sees Kratos' blades of chaos and realizes that that's actually a weapon. I guess maybe it's a godly weapon that they can use in order to pierce the heart of Sindri with Sindri still staying alive. So he says he will help us, but only if Sindri stays alive. And he does this with the blades of chaos. Guess maybe Ares had some special magic in there for it to happen.
If you think about it, Surtur did a heart transplant with Sindri, saved her life from Ragnarok. Good job.
And then he's like, don't tell her. I don't know. You're going to stab her heart. She's probably going to feel it, is my guess. So he takes us to the spark of the world, which is, to me, it looks like the center of the universe. This is the most beautiful place I've seen in the entire game. I was just looking in awe of the stars and the skies, and it just looked like the universe. And it was super cool to see. We've seen all these realms, but this place, again, looks like almost the beginning of the world. It's such a cool place.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going into outer space in God of War Ragnarok, but again, like this game surprises you with another environment that you didn't expect. It reminded me of when Doctor Strange goes in the first movie to see Dormammu.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
That's all I was thinking about. I was like, oh, this is like really mystical. This is like Doctor Strange.
So this is where Surtur can get big into the giant monster that is Ragnarok, allegedly, after being pierced with the blades of chaos. But Kratos is also worried that this is becoming too easy, and he mentions how Odin knows that he has Gjallarhorn and the mask, and knows that we have to seek Surtur in terms of the prophecy. He's kind of confused as why this is being relatively easy to do.
Do you think that Odin left information about Ragnarok out of the hands of everyone else? Like, does he know something that Ragnarok would maybe grant him or like actually plays into his objectives that maybe no one else knows about?
I don't think so. I just think the only thing is that he found out about Groa's shrine and what the actual truth was at the beginning of the game or close to.
Yeah. So wouldn't he want to avoid this?
Yeah, so where is he right now?
But that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying if he has more information?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if there's information out there about Ragnarok? Because he's been also studying this mask for a really long time. Like, what if he actually got information about Ragnarok from this mask when he lost his eye? Like, what if he saw something that gives him like a little bit of an upper hand if Ragnarok were to happen? Because even like at the beginning of the game when he's like, oh, I don't want war. And, yeah, he's trying to convince Kratos that he doesn't want war, but he's not really so adamant about it until a certain point.
Right.
So I'm just kind of like, I feel like he may know something that it's like, just like, hey, even if Ragnarok happens, I still have an escape or I still have a way out.
Maybe there's a side prophecy we don't know about. That's possible. So Surtur prepares himself to get the blades of chaos plunged into it.
Now, for the really painful part. My fire, her heart. Combine them, you get Ragnarok. It's time.
How long do you think this is gonna take? Odin must have sent them!
So a lot just happened there. Surtur implants his flames into the blades and boom. Kratos pierces Sinmara's heart to create the giant beast Ragnarok. Only problem, Kratos was right. He knew that this was too easy, and Odin knew this was going to happen, so he does send 2 of his Valkyries, Hurst and Mist, to deal with us. So guess what, Cam? It's boss fight time.
Boss fight.
They're fast, they're furious, they fight in unison. You have to have your shield ready to deflect their attacks. How did you feel about this fight? Because we don't have to fight them once. We don't have to fight them twice. We have to fight them thrice.
Thrice indeed. Indeedy. I mean, they were really quick. And the thing is, they're so far, right? So like I was trying to like just get up close and try to get like some hits on them. And then they're far. They do this like swooping attack.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. But I feel like at this point, I felt like I had already my blocking or like my parry and timing my attacks. Plus there's lots of cues for their attacks. Mm-hmm. So I actually didn't find it too hard. The only frustrating thing is they regenerate their health.
Yeah, they keep regenerating, which is really tough. I noticed, I guess my strategy was use the drop near spear as much as possible when they're, far away. And once they get to close range with those attacks, once you block them, that's what I would use my special attacks. And I would just use them all in unison, all at once, and then go back to the same kind of rinse and repeat
I didn't
thing.
even use the drop near spear. I was just like, I'll just wait.
That's like my number one weapon that I use most of the game, really.
It's fun to use, but I still default to the Blades of Chaos all the time.
Well, you missed opportunity here. That's okay. But like you said, I guess we're seasoned veterans in fighting that. I don't think the boss fights are too difficult, especially if you've powered yourself up quite a bit. Once you get the third bar of health down enough, however, Kratos starts to get pummeled in a cutscene by the Valkyries until Atreus turns into his bear form and Kratos and himself take out the Valkyries with their Spartan Rage and other cool godly attacks that we don't know. I don't even know what Atreus' powers is from Kratos. He kind of has Spartan Rage, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, that's just me talking to myself. There's some cool slow-mo triggers here, and then you attack and defeat the Valkyries. Cam, right at the end here, how did you feel finishing this fight? Did you feel satisfied? Did you like that Atreus got involved?
I did like it. They did like this 2-shot or like a 1-shot with the two of them like side by side.
Yes.
It was the coolest shot in the whole game because it's like you have Atreus in this bear form, and it really just for me showed that like realization that it's like Atreus is now a young man that's able to hold his own in battle and like actually have his father's back, and like Kratos is able to trust Atreus to fight side by side with him. So it was really cool.
It was really, really cool. After we defeat the Valkyries, we go back to Surtur to see if he's turned into the beast of Ragnarok.
Whoa! Will you help us attack Asgard?
I await the call.
Great! Hear that? All we have to do is call him with Gjallarhorn when we're ready.
I find it hilarious that this giant beast, who we can't even see right now, by the way, because he's in this giant universe pit, but basically just says, I'll wait for you guys. Once you call me with Gjallarhorn, I'll just chill out here. You know, I'm probably a 80 feet beast or whatever I am, but I guess I can just chill here and wait. I found it funny to me that they can already control him that way. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just funny, I guess. This is like, all right, I'll just wait for you guys. Like, I'm just going to wait here in my
Don't
car.
worry, I'm here.
Take your time.
Yeah.
You guys got to get ready. You want to go do some extra quests? Like, go for it.
Well, they're not controlling him, right? It's Surtur. He wants to be here.
Yes.
But he's just considerate. You know, are there any side quests that you want to do? You want to take a time out? You drink some water lately? Take that time right now. Ragnarok could come anytime. Don't worry, buddy. For me, it was just like, this is totally Dormammu. This is totally Dormammu.
1,000%.
And I was here for it.
Except they don't have infinite universes to like do it over and over and over and over again until they get the right probability. But that'd also be cool. Little plot line. But that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen here. No.
As we head back to the Mystic Gateway, we have to fight a lot of enemies, a lot of Einherjar, and I mean a lot. There is an absurd amount of enemies to get in your way before you get to the Mystic Gateway. But once you do, we see Mimir, who is waiting for us after Hildisvíni took him. Mimir convinced the armies of the dead to come and fight for their cause. So I guess they might have a fighting chance.
I have to say, though, I was a little nervous, Nick. I was a little nervous that you'd be right about this one just because they sent Mimir. Why would you send Mimir? The guy who was literally Odin's right hand.
No, because they said, at the beginning of this chapter, Hildisvíni comes and they want to use Mimir for this because Hel wants to talk to somebody who is dead. Mimir is dead, and that's the reason why. So there was a reason behind it. But he
still is the reason why Odin has taken advantage of all these different groups.
Sure, from what we learned so far in this game, but he's also very charming.
That is true. He is charming.
Mimir could probably sell me a used car that, has very high mileage, no gas tank, and I'd still buy it from him because he's that convincing.
Mimir, the car salesman, I would see it. I would buy it. Mimir could buy me a necklace and he has no neck. I mean, I'd still buy it. He could be like, oh, this is the best chain ever. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I see you obviously know what you're talking about. I'd buy it.
There you go. And that's why he got the armies of the dead as we prepare for war. Atreus does let us know before we get to the gate that if there's anything else we want to do, we should probably do it now. So Cam, we got the message that every other game has. Hey, we're nearing the end, so try to get everything you can done.
Yeah, I saved like 5 times right here in this moment. This was one of the moments where I was like, okay, I need a save and I need to get a resurrection stone because it is about to go down.
You do have one more chance as well right before this, because if you head back to Sindri's, it doesn't start from here. Lunda tells us that the armies we've collected are all meeting in Midgard, so we still, again, have a chance to do whatever we want before we head to Midgard. So do what needs to be done before you get to that point. I would say get your armor ready. That's all I'm going to say.
Get your affair in orders.
Yes, get your affairs in order. We're in for a doozy of an episode next week, so prepare yourself accordingly. But after the break, we'll break down the sadness and sorrows that we felt throughout this chapter dealing with Brock's death. So Cam, again, we've crossed this theme many times, and especially you brought it up quite a bit, that Atreus is a child. Atreus is still annoying, even though he's a young adult. He doesn't act like it, even though I think he really has grown a lot.
I don't nag about Atreus.
I know, sorry. I don't mean it like that, but
I kind of do.
I'm using it to prove my point, okay? That's all I'm trying to do. That's what we're doing in this third segment.
Go ahead.
But I think in this specific moment that we kind of dealt with Brock's death in this chapter, Atreus did really well. He was sad. He felt regret, but he was not angry. He was not frustrated. He was not, everything that we've seen of Atreus being upset. He usually turns that into anger. This was such a mature response. Maybe it has to do with the fact that he feels like he's to blame, but he was able to apologized to Sindri. Sindri didn't take his apology well, and he still was calm about it and let Sindri take his time. And I think back to that scene with Kratos and Atreus about to kill the deer, and when Kratos tells Atreus, we can't run from this, we have to stop the bleeding, he accepts it, and he takes to it well. And I just really look at this as a really focal point of Atreus really becoming a man. I think you mentioned that as well, becoming a young man. And this is the chapter 15 specifically, that makes it feel like he has finally grown up.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. I think this is like, and that shot that we thought was so cool, right, is just really all encompassing of that, right? That relationship coming together, especially with Atreus owning his powers and knowing exactly who he is in that moment. And we are not seeing, I'm sure he's still hurting from the loss of Brock, but I think he was able to channel that into really not wanting to lose anyone else and able to protect his father in this moment against these Valkyries, right? So it's really cool to see how their relationship has evolved. I feel like it's been a long journey to this place, and I'm glad that we're finally here.
So the other question I have for you in regards to Surtur, did he do the right thing in not telling his wife that he was going to turn into Ragnarok? He's sacrificing himself. He's sacrificing her love, basically, because he knows that she's going to be in pain. He also has her heart, so that kind of is held hostage as well. But he says something to Atreus in this chapter, in chapter 16, that sometimes loving someone is choosing the lesser pain for them. Do you agree with that statement?
I mean, I could see where he's coming from, because he's trying to keep her safe, right? And I think he knows if he was going to tell her what he was going to do, it wasn't that she was going to talk him out of it. I think she would go along with it and merge with him to become Ragnarok. And that's what he doesn't want. So no, he's not doing the right thing, but he is as well. Also, we don't know what's going to happen after Ragnarok. Like, there is nothing in the shrines that show what happens to Surtur after becoming this being. Does he live like that afterwards? If they survive Ragnarok, can he go back to his old form? Can he still love her? So, I mean, he has to look at it as this is the end, because he doesn't know what's coming next. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the end.
I think they're all assuming that he's, including himself, they're all assuming that he's going to die.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, he has to go into this assuming he is going to die, but you don't necessarily know, right? Like, you don't want to necessarily go into this and tell her you'll be back, because you don't know. And I think that's what he's trying to avoid.
So we had our boss fight with the Valkyries. Where do you rank this boss fight in terms of the boss fights that we've had so far in this game? To me, it was, I would say, maybe the first health bar of the Valkyries. I thought that maybe Odin would put more of a fight into this other than just sending his Valkyries. But then when they recharge twice over, then I'm like, okay, this is actually a legitimate boss fight.
Yeah, I did, though, think, like, if this is Odin's final stance before Ragnarok happening, I did expect more enemies on the way here rather than afterwards. Because why would he send his Valkyries here? Like, this is the point where Surtur becomes Ragnarok. So like, why wouldn't you send everybody here? Like, it would be your Valkyries, everyone, instead of after the fact. So I'm still a bit, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I don't trust Odin's move here.
Well, you mentioned it in terms of, maybe he has another prophecy up his sleeve or something like that, where he knows there's something else. So this has to like fall into it all, where maybe the reason why he's not putting up such a fight, because you would think he would do everything he could to stop Ragnarok. And now they're at this point. You would think he'd throw everything at them, but he doesn't. He only throws 2 Valkyries. So it is confusing. It
is very confusing. Very confusing. Also, he still turned our world upside down. I'm really curious about Tyr. Is Tyr alive? Someone tell me. Is Tyr alive? What's going on?
Maybe he just shows up. I don't know. That's my hope anyway. He shows up to help us at the end. But we'll see what happens. Flame phantoms. I wanted to mention them. There's some phantom enemies. Those balls of black and purple gas. I don't know. They look like a planet. I have no idea. But anyway, what do you think of those things? Because they're around a lot of other realms. They're in this one in Muspelheim after we create Ragnarok. They're tough fights. They're not easy because you have to fight these like great. Every time you take the health down, you have to like knock down these, I would say, graves. I'm not really sure what they are. And it's always time consuming.
Like these tombstones. I don't even know. Are they tombstones? I don't even know what they are. It is time consuming. They have become like, between them and the Nokins, annoying. I don't know who takes the award for the most annoying enemy. It may still be the Nokins, but this one's, they're definitely horrible.
Any little tiny enemies are the most annoying.
It's always the little small ones.
Yes, it always is. Unless you're Ragnarok, who is a giant thing. I always thought as well, Ragnarok was always a thing, like an event. I didn't realize that it was a monster or like a being.
Yeah.
And if that was the case this whole time, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, because I think also because we know of this lore through other stories like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we assume things. But my thing is like, if we were clued in more to because when we saw the shrine, right? Surtur needing to combine to become Ragnarok. I didn't realize it was become. I just thought cause Ragnarok. And then I had questions there as to like, well, why would that happen? What is his importance? But yeah, I mean, like if this was the case the whole time, I would have just made the monster Ragnarok and then just talk to him after, be like, hey, Ragnarok, this situation. Odin sucks. You want to remain as Ragnarok or you want to see what's coming afterwards? Let's go fight Odin. It's all about the compromise.
I love how we always put real world implications, not implications, but real world things into these games like they would actually matter.
Yeah. Like we put ourselves in this game. Right. We put ourselves in this game. That's really what it is.
But that's the developer's fault for making all these characters look hyper realistic. Again, Odin doesn't look like a fearful god. He just looks like your
Shame
uncle
on you.
Who goes to the bakery every Sunday. That's it.
Shame on you, Santa Monica Studios, giving all these characters IRL characteristics and voices that just make us want to interact with them in real life.
All right, well, this episode literally was the calm before the storm. Next episode is going to be crazy. I'll tell you that. So you don't want to miss it. Cam, before we go, anything left over that you want to mention from these chapters?
I think I would be one of the dragons living in the tree, the Yggdrasil. Like how we killed the mother. I forgot her name. I'd be one of the babies.
Nidhogg.
Yes.
You'd be one of the babies?
Yeah, just because it's like I'm so innocent, people will find me cute. But then I also could tear them a new one. Oh my gosh, Nick, I think you've had a negative influence on me.
Talk shit about my dragon thing in the first segment, and now you want to be a dragon. Interesting. Because you want to tear people apart, or whatever you said, or tear them a new one is what you said, I think.
Yeah, tear them a new one. This is all Nick's influence, and just now being influenced by his choices.
Yes. A cute and cuddly dragon. What is that? Dudley? Dudley the dragon?
Dudley, no. Dudley was weird. We'll get into it next time.
We're probably dating ourselves once again, like usual. Anyway, again, like I said, jam-packed episode next week. Make sure you stay tuned. But that is it for us on this week's episode of AutoSave. We will see you next time. AutoSave is produced and hosted by Camille Salazar Hadaway and myself, Nick Andrade. The show is also produced by Dylan Wilson. Gameplay and additional elements provided by Chris Seitzer. Technical production by Greg Fillion. Executive producer, Clayton Hansler. You can follow the show at AutoSave Podcast on Twitter and AutoSave Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. You can subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it right now, and if it happens to be Apple Podcasts, kindly leave us a rating and review, but only if it's good. AutoSave is a Soda original, hosted on the Soda Podcast Network.
AutoSave.
Dudley, Dudley the dragon, Dudley.